NHL Historic Draft Simulation number 7. In this episode, I'll have the major makeover of the rosters and then simulate 3 seasons using the rosters. For the Scramble Draft, every team has to make a top forward and defenseman eligible for the draft. The draft order is determined by a random number generator and will be a snake format. NHL Scramble Draft 7. Pittsburgh Penguins draft Matthew Schneider. Chicago Blackhawks draft Steven Stamkos. LA Kings draft Red Kelly. Buffalo Sabres draft Larry Murphy. Philadelphia Flyers draft Eric Desjardins. Winnipeg Jets draft Pierre Turgeon. Edmonton Oilers draft Yari Curry. Vancouver Canucks draft Shea Weber. Washington Capitals draft Dale Hawerchuk. Toronto Maple Leafs draft Victor Hedman. Hartford Whalers draft Teemu Selanne. New York Islanders draft Brad Park. New Jersey Devils draft Bernie Federko. Boston Bruins draft Marcel Provenos. Dallas Stars draft Duncan Keith. Detroit Red Wings draft Doug Wilson. Calgary Flames draft Alan Stanley. Montreal Canadiens draft John Ratelle. New York Rangers draft Dave Andreychuk. Colorado Avalanche draft Theo Fleury. And the St. Louis Blues draft Marian Hossa. Round 2. St. Louis Blues draft Dougie Hamilton. Colorado Avalanche draft Paul Reinhart. New York Rangers draft Rod Langway. Montreal Canadiens draft Quinn Hughes. Calgary Flames draft Claude Giroux. Detroit Red Wings draft Joe Nieuwendyk. Dallas Stars draft Elmer Like. Boston Bruins draft Evgeny Malkin. New Jersey Devils draft Thomas Caberlet. New York Islanders draft Dino Ciccarelli. Hartford Whalers draft Kevin Hatcher. Toronto Maple Leafs draft Danny Heatley. Washington Capitals draft Ryan Suter. Vancouver Canucks draft Pavel Datsyuk. Edmonton Oilers draft PK Subban. Winnipeg Jets draft Ivan Provorov. Philadelphia Flyers draft Buffalo Sabres draft Norm Ullman. LA Kings draft Cam Neely. Chicago Blackhawks draft Morgan Riley. And the Pittsburgh Penguins draft Sebastian Aho. After the draft, a few trades are made. Boston Bruins trade Jamie Benn, Peter McNabb, and Jack Stewart to the Winnipeg Jets for Dickie Moore, Dustin Byfuglien, and Mike Bullard. Colorado Avalanche trade Charlie Conacher, Zach Parise, and Jeff Carter to the Hartford Whalers for Tim Kerr, Patrick Sharp, and Ray Ferraro. Toronto Maple Leafs trade Vincent Damphousse, Taylor Hall, and Marian Gaborik to the Calgary Flames for Brendan Shanahan, Jason Arnott, and Jamie Langenbrunner. Vancouver Canucks trade John Beliveau, Busher Jackson, and Trevor Linden to the Buffalo Sabres for Adam Oates, Ryan Propp, and Miroslav Shatan. The changes made in the offseason will have a huge impact on the upcoming simulation. In first place in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Colorado Avalanche, followed by the Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, LA Kings, Calgary Flames, Dallas Stars, and Detroit Red Wings. Missing the playoffs in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Vancouver Canucks and Edmonton Oilers. In first place in the Prince of Wales Conference are the Hartford Whalers, followed by the Buffalo Sabres, Toronto Maple Leafs, Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Islanders, Washington Capitals, Philadelphia Flyers, and Montreal Canadiens. Missing the playoffs in the Prince of Wales Conference are the New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers, and Boston Bruins. The Colorado Avalanche beat the Buffalo Sabres in 6 games to win the Stanley Cup. After the season, a few trades are made. Boston Bruins trade Bobby Clarke, Dean Prentice, and Ed Belfour to the Philadelphia Flyers for Steve Yzerman, Vic Hadfield, and Jonathan Quick. Edmonton Oilers trade Daniel Sedin, Henrik Sedin, and Scott Mellanby to the LA Kings for Eric Lindros, Rick Vaive, and Benny Prospero. New Jersey Devils trade Evgeny Kuznetsov, Roy Conacher, and Keith Yandel to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Doug Moyne. New York Rangers trade Jason Spezza, Rick McLeish, and Cliff Ronning to the Chicago Blackhawks for Rod Brindamore, Steve Larmer, and Bob Nystrom. Vancouver Canucks trade Brad Richards, Dale Hunter, and Alexei Zhitnik to the Montreal Canadiens for Ray Whitney, Pavel Demitra, and Jay Bouwmeester. The changes made in the offseason will have a major effect on the next simulation. In first place in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Colorado Avalanche, followed by the Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, Calgary Flames, LA Kings, Vancouver Canucks, and Detroit Red Wings. Missing the playoffs in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers. In first place in the Prince of Wales Conference are the Hartford Whalers, followed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, Buffalo Sabres, New York Islanders, Washington Capitals, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Boston Bruins. Missing the playoffs in the Prince of Wales Conference are the Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, and New Jersey Devils. The New York Islanders beat the Colorado Avalanche in 6 games to win the Stanley Cup. After the season, a few trades are made. Dallas Stars trade Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and Clarke Gillies to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Howie Morenz, Danny Heatley, and Slava Kozlov. Edmonton Oilers trade Peter Forsberg, Steve Shutt, and Kevin Lowe to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Stan Mikita, Bill Cowley, and Brad McCrimmon. Montreal Canadiens trade John Ratelle, Alexei Yashin, and Cy Donnelly to the Detroit Red Wings for Pat LaFontaine, Doug Bentley, and Joe Pavelski. New Jersey Devils trade Phil Esposito, Wayne Cashman, and Roman Josi to the Philadelphia Flyers for Peter Stastny, Michel Goulet, and Scott Niedermayer. New York Rangers trade Doug Gilmour, Roberto Luongo, and Pat Verbeek to the St. Louis Blues for Jeremy Roenick, Carey Price, and Eric Stahl. The changes made in the offseason will have a major effect on the next simulation. In first place in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Colorado Avalanche, followed by the Winnipeg Jets, Chicago Blackhawks, LA Kings, Dallas Stars, St. Louis Blues, Edmonton Oilers, and Vancouver Canucks. Missing the playoffs in the Clarence Campbell Conference are the Detroit Red Wings and Calgary Flames. In first place in the Prince of Wales Conference are the Hartford Whalers, followed by the New York Islanders, Buffalo Sabres, Toronto Maple Leafs, Washington Capitals, Boston Bruins, Montreal Canadiens, and Philadelphia Flyers. Missing the playoffs in the Prince of Wales Conference are the Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Rangers, and New Jersey Devils. The Colorado Avalanche beat the New York Islanders in 6 games to win the Stanley Cup. In the next simulation of this mini-series, I simulate another 3 seasons using these rosters.